A young girl's bravery would soon become the talk of the savannah. 12-year-old Amara Okafor sprinted along the dusty path connecting her small Kenyan village to the Malugan Wildlife Reserve, her heart thudding. Not from exhaustion, but from the shock of what she had just witnessed. Only 20 minutes earlier, while gathering firewood near the reserve boundary, she had stumbled upon a sight that froze her in place. A majestic male lion, his powerful hind leg gruesomely ensnared in rusty barbed wire. The animal thrashed in pain, his golden fur darkened by blood, where the cruel metal had torn into his flesh. Amara had grown up near the reserve. Her father, Emmanuel, was a dedicated ranger, fiercely committed to protecting the region's dwindling lion population from the constant threat of poachers. From a young age, he had taught her to respect these creatures, not just for their beauty, but for their role in the fragile balance of the ecosystem. So when Amara burst into the ranger station, breathless and shouting, "Papa, Papa, there's a lion trapped near the baobab clearing. He's bleeding badly." Emmanuel didn't hesitate. He sprang into action, radioing the team. "Just now?" he asked. "I ran straight here," she replied. Within moments, an emergency crew had mobilized. Dr. K, the reserve's veterinarian, grabbed her medical kit, while 2 rangers loaded tranquilizers and first aid supplies into the jeep. Emmanuel turned to his daughter. "Amara, you stay here." "But, Papa, I can show you exactly where. No arguments," he said firmly. "It's too dangerous." As the jeep roared off in a cloud of orange dust, Amara stepped back, but her resolve hardened. She knew a shortcut through the brush that could get her to the lion faster than the jeep, which had to follow the winding access road. Quietly, she slipped away. When she arrived, the lion was still there, just as she had left him. His magnificent mane billowed gently in the dry breeze, a stark contrast to the brutal injury binding him to the earth. Up close, the scene was even more harrowing. The barbed wire had bitten deep into his leg, blood soaking his tawny fur. The great beast panted heavily, his eyes flickering between pain, fear, and fading strength. Hidden behind a termite mound, Amara watched, torn between fear and compassion. Her father had always warned her, never approach a wounded animal. But with every pain movement, the lion only drove the wire deeper into his own flesh. And Amara knew waiting was not an option. Something deep inside Amara shifted as she watched the lion collapse, drained and broken. His massive body slumped into the dust, head resting heavily on the dry earth. His eyes fluttered half-closed, a low, aching moan slipping from his throat. In that moment, he did not look like the fearsome predator from her father's cautionary tales. He looked vulnerable, almost human in his suffering. Before she could stop herself, Amara began to move. She kept low to the ground, carefully circling toward the lion's side, so he could see her approach. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, to run, but something stronger urged her forward. Compassion. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the dry breeze. "Help is coming." She knew the lion could not understand her words, but she hoped he might feel her intent. His amber eyes locked on hers, full of pain yet void of aggression. He didn't lunge. He didn't growl. Maybe he was too weak, or maybe, somehow, he knew she meant no harm. From her pocket, Amara pulled out a small water bottle and the handkerchief her mother had tucked into her hands that morning. With trembling fingers, she moistened the cloth. The lion watched her every move. "I'm just going to clean your wound a little," she murmured, her voice steadier than she expected. "The doctor is on the way, but maybe this will help for now." She crept forward, inch by inch. The lion's gaze never left her face. She had never been this close to a wild lion before. Only distant glimpses from the safety of her father's patrol jeep. Now, the sheer scale of the creature overwhelmed her. One paw alone was nearly the size of her head. Just as she reached arm's length, the lion let out a deep growl. Amara froze. Her breath caught. But then, something incredible happened. The growl faded. The lion lowered his massive head once again, resting it gently on the ground, as though accepting whatever was to come. With courage she didn't know she had, Amara stretched out her hand. The damp cloth trembled between her fingers as she reached for the wound, determined to bring a shred of relief to this fallen king of the savannah. "Papa, Papa," Amara cried as she burst into the ranger station, breathless with urgency. Emmanuel, her father, immediately looked up from his desk, sensing the alarm in her voice. "There's a lion caught in the fence near the baobab clearing. He's bleeding badly." Emmanuel was on his feet in an instant, already reaching for his radio. "How long ago?" "Just now," she panted. "I ran straight here." Within minutes, Emmanuel had gathered the emergency team. Dr. Cohn, the reserve's veterinarian, grabbed her medical kit, while 2 rangers loaded tranquilizer rifles and first aid gear into the jeep. "You stay here," Emmanuel ordered Amara, his tone firm and final. "But, Papa, I know exactly where he is. I can show you. No arguments." He cut her off. "It's too dangerous." As the jeep roared to life and sped away in a cloud of orange dust, Amara stood frozen. But the moment it disappeared over her eyes, she made her decision. She knew the lion's exact location, and more importantly, she knew a shortcut through the brush that would get her there faster than the winding reserve road. When she reached the clearing, the lion was still there, just as she had left him. His majestic mane spread over the dry earth like a crown dulled by blood. Up close, the reality struck her with brutal clarity. The barbed wire was wrapped tightly around his hind leg, the rusted metal biting deep into the muscle. A dark stain spread across his golden fur. He was breathing heavily, his chest rising and falling with labored effort. His eyes, once full of wild strength, now shimmered with pain and fatigue. Amara crouched behind a nearby termite mound, observing carefully. Her father had always warned her, injured wild animals are the most dangerous. But as she watched the lion struggle, each futile attempt only digging the wire deeper into his leg, something inside her changed. The lion suddenly collapsed, completely spent. His massive head dropped to the ground, eyes half closed, a broken moan escaping his throat. In that vulnerable moment, he no longer resembled the terrifying predator from her father's stories. He looked like a creature in agony, lost, hurting. Before fear could hold her back, Amara found herself moving. Slowly, cautiously, she stayed low, circling toward his side so he could see her approach. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to run, but something stronger, compassion, pulled her forward. "It's okay," she whispered gently, even though she knew he could not understand. "Help is coming." The lion's amber eyes met hers. He did not move. He did not growl. Perhaps he was too weak, or perhaps he knew. From her pocket, she pulled out the small water bottle and the clean handkerchief her mother had tucked into her hand that morning. Her hands trembled as she dampened the cloth. The lion continued watching her, alert but still. "I'm just going to clean your wound a little," she murmured softly. "The doctor's on the way, but maybe this will help." Inch by inch, she moved closer, her breath shallow, her heart thudding like a drum in her chest. Never in her life had she been so close to a wild lion. He was massive. His paw alone was nearly the size of her head. When she reached arm's length, the lion gave a deep, rumbling growl. Amara froze. But then, something remarkable happened. The growl faded. The lion's head sank back down, surrendering to fate or trust. With courage she did not know she had, Amara reached forward. The cloth trembled in her hand as she touched the edge of the wound, beginning to gently clean the blood-matted fur of the savannah's fallen king. Every movement the lion made was laced with agony, but Amara held her ground. "I'm just going to try to clean your wound a little," she whispered. Her voice remained surprisingly steady, though her heart pounded like a drum inside her chest. "The doctor is coming, but maybe this will help until then." Inch by inch, she crept closer. The lion's eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. Amara had never been this close to a wild lion in her life. She had only seen them from a safe distance, peering out her father's jeep during patrols. Now, face to face with one of nature's most powerful creatures, she felt its sheer size overwhelm her. One of his paws alone was nearly the size of her head. When she was just an arm's length away, the lion let out a low, rumbling growl. Amara froze. But then, to her astonishment, The sound faded. The lion's massive head sank back to the ground as if surrendering, not just to exhaustion but to her presence. With a courage she did not know she had, Amara extended her hand. The damp cloth in her trembling fingers reached forward toward the bloodied fur of the savannah's fallen king. It had all started just 20 minutes earlier. 12-year-old Amara Okafor had been collecting kindling near the edge of the Malugan Wildlife Reserve in Kenya when she stumbled upon a sight that chilled her to the bone. A majestic male lion, its hind leg viciously tangled in rusty barbed wire. The wire bit deep into his flesh, staining his golden coat with blood. He was panting heavily, each breath a struggle. Amara had grown up in the shadow of this reserve. Her father, Emmanuel, worked as a ranger, fiercely committed to protecting the dwindling lion population from the cruel hands of poachers. Since she was old enough to understand, he had taught her about the vital role lions played in the ecosystem and the devastation wrought by illegal hunting. She ran fast. "Papa, Papa," she cried as she burst into the ranger station. Emmanuel looked up instantly, alert at the urgency in his daughter's voice. "There's a lion caught in the fence, near the baobab clearing. He's bleeding badly." "How long ago?" "Just now. I ran straight here." Within minutes, Emmanuel had radioed the emergency team into action. Dr. Cohn, the reserve's veterinarian, grabbed her kit. 2 rangers rushed to load tranquilizers and medical supplies into the jeep. "You stay here," Emmanuel said firmly. "But Papa," "I can show you exactly where." "No arguments." He cut her off. "It's too dangerous." As the jeep roared to life and sped away in a cloud of orange dust, Amara stood silently, but only for a moment. She knew the exact location, and more importantly, she knew a shortcut through the brush. The official road was long and winding, but her feet knew another way. She ran. When she arrived, the lion was still there, his powerful body slumped on the dry, cracked earth. The parched grass rustled gently around him, the barbed wire wrapped tightly around his leg, the metal glinting in the afternoon sun. His breaths were shallow, his eyes dulling. Amara crouched behind a termite mound, remembering everything her father had told her. Injured animals are the most dangerous. But watching the lion writhe and weaken, something inside her shifted. It was no longer fear she felt. It was something deeper, something stronger. Compassion. She could not wait for help. She had to try. And so she did. She knew the shortcut would get her there before the ranger team's jeep, which had to follow the longer access road. And she was right. The lion was exactly where she had left him. His magnificent mane splayed across the parched earth like a crown tarnished by blood. Up close, the situation was far worse than it had appeared from a distance. His hind leg was tightly ensnared in barbed wire, the rusty metal cutting deep into his flesh. A dark crimson stain soaked his tawny fur. His breathing was shallow and labored, and though his eyes still held pain and fear, their brightness had begun to fade. Amara crouched behind a termite mound, watching. Her father had always drilled into her the danger of wild animals, especially wounded ones. She knew better than to approach. But as she watched the lion struggle, each desperate motion only embedding the wire deeper into his leg, something inside her began to shift. Then the lion collapsed, exhausted, defeated. His massive head dropped to the ground, eyes half closed, and a soft moan escaped his throat. In that moment, he no longer resembled the fearsome predator of her father's cautionary tales. He looked broken, wounded, vulnerable, and suffering. Before fear could hold her back, Amara found herself inching forward, staying low to the ground, slowly approaching from the side so the lion could see her. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back. But something stronger, something fierce, kept her moving. Compassion. "It's okay," she whispered gently, though she knew he could not understand. "Help is coming." The lion's amber eyes locked onto hers, unblinking, but he made no move, no growl, no warning. Perhaps he was too weak, or perhaps he understood that this small human meant no harm. From her pocket, Amara pulled out a water bottle and a clean handkerchief her mother had given her that morning. Her hands trembled as she dampened the cloth. The lion watched her every movement, quiet and still. I'm just going to try to clean your wound a little, she murmured, her voice steady despite the thunder of her heart. The doctor is coming, but maybe this will help until then. Inch by inch, she closed the distance between them. The lion's gaze never left her face. She had never been this close to a wild lion before. All her life, she had seen them only from behind the safety of her father's patrol jeep. Now, standing only feet away, the sheer scale of him overwhelmed her. His paw alone was nearly the size of her head. Then, when she was just within reach, the lion let out a low, guttural growl. Amara froze, but to her astonishment, the growl faded into silence. The lion's massive head sank back down onto the earth, as if he were surrendering, either to fate or to her. With a courage she didn't know she possessed, Amara reached forward. The cloth in her fingers shook, but she extended her hand toward the wound, determined to offer relief to the fallen king of the savannah. And in that moment, beneath the golden sky of the savannah, one young girl's courage became more than just an act of kindness. It became a message that even the fiercest creatures on earth can recognize gentleness. That compassion, even in the smallest hands, can break through fear, pain, and wild instinct. As the rescue team arrived minutes later, stunned to find Amara beside the lion, alive, unhurt, and holding his gaze, the story of what happened that day spread far beyond the reserve. And the lion, well, he would survive. But more importantly, so would something greater. Thanks for watching, and until next time, never underestimate the quiet strength of a brave heart.